This is Gabriela on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. We have a real treat for you just around the corner, and that is Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. Jeff is the owner of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and he will be coming to you weekly to teach you more about empowered living. Now, let's join Jeff, already in the studio.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and you're listening to Empowered Living. Now, this is part 2 that we're going to be listening to today of an amazing story by Steve Johnson. Steve has been a friend of mine for over 20 years. Steve was the executive director of the Independence Center for 29 years. The Independence Center is a group that is an advocacy group for those with disabilities. And Steve became that after having a spinal cord injury at the age of 18. And if you haven't listened to the previous part 1 of his story, he has an amazing testimony of some healing that took place. But he's going to continue his journey today by sharing with us what he learned after that healing, and primarily what happened to develop him on the inside. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to jump right into Steve's story.
That started me on a path, searching for more about God, searching for more truth. And back, this was 1970, back then, there was a program, or renewal they called it, in the Catholic Church, where they called it the Catholic Charismatic Renewal, where they actually had prayer groups that would meet, and they would have worship and pray for each other and things that you would never think the Catholic Church would allow. It's one of those quirky things that there's still some groups today. But back then it was a new thing that a lot of people were getting excited about. And I just happened to, one of my parents' friends heard what had happened to me. She was one of these people that got all emotional, excited. And she said, "Hallelujah, I'll invite him to see if he wants to come to the prayer group that we meet every week, Living Waters Prayer Group." And so during that process, being part of that group, that fleshed out what it means to be a practicing believer, and the whole, what I consider a whole ball of wax for Christianity, reaching out to others, bringing the word gospel to everybody you can, the fruits of the Spirit, practicing them, kindness, patience, all that stuff. And so I just so happened, ran into this. She was my aunt. And so started going to the prayer meetings, and that began another path where really, I believe, got to really learn what it means. And I was just, prior to this, I could not accept death. It was just, I didn't want to think about it. I thought I would live forever. Still do, kind of, but, and I was just terrified to even think about it. But after this happened, that fear was just totally gone. It never crossed my mind. And this went on for probably close to 5 years. And this assurance that God is real and that there was more than this world. There was more to look forward to, and God had plans, and all of that just became so real in my life. It just took away a lot of anxiety and fear and frustration that somebody in my situation normally would have had. And so I just, went on, taking classes at a community college and being part of the prayer group and really enjoying life totally. And but I think, and this is the beginning of one moment of a big story, but I think looking back on that, it just as much as me having a spinal cord injury changing the direction of my life, this had equal, if not greater, impact on the rest of my life. But it wasn't, and I don't think I gave one final part about the healing of the kidney. We jump back to 1970. Okay. That the doctor scheduled a follow-up visit in his office to see how I was doing. About 4 months after the surgery that I planned. And he came in. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Fine." He said, "You having any more urine infections or blood or anything?" I said, "None at all." "Hey, none at all." He said, and he took over the glasses, older guy, and sat down and he said, "Mr. Johnson," he said, "I've been practicing physician for 4 years. I've never seen this happen. 4 years. And I don't know if he expected me to say something or what, but I just said, well, I guess, God just decided he wanted to heal me. He said, well, I've never really been a believer, but this got me thinking now.
I bet.
And he didn't have the guts to ask me back for another follow-up visit. But I remember leaving there thinking, this is great. Maybe this will help him.
Yeah.
Look for his true path.
I bet.
But the reason I wanted to jump back to that part of the story is that's, even though it's a big thing, major thing, that's not the victory that happened to me that day. The victory, even if I hadn't, his kidney wasn't here. I could have walked out of the hospital, been totally healed, and it wouldn't have been as great as what happened in my heart. That's where the healing was. And that's where I don't know what I should say, I found God or God found me, but we found each other. And it was just, when something is totally, just like my accident, something's totally unexpected and unplanned, and then it happens, and it's a change in your life. So it was another instance in my life. I think, man, life is really interesting. You don't know what's around the corner, but God had got me on a path now where I still didn't know what I was going to do with my life. But at least I had joy, I had peace, happiness. I was sharing my story with a lot of people, and they would get all amazed about the physical kidney being healed. I said, that's not the story. They missed the point. But that's the obvious reaction. So we'll take a break here.
Okay. And Steve, a couple of things that I think that really strike me that are so significant about your story is number one, after this experience that you had with your kidney being healed. I mean, they had originally given you a prognosis of not really probably making it into your 40s, right? And then you went decades, I think, without any significant kidney issue, right? I mean, that just, I mean, maybe a little minor thing, but with no major issue, you know what I mean? And just on and on and on and on and on. This went, which I think is really amazing. And, but you know, another thing that just, came to me while you were sharing that again is that, when you went into that chapel, you didn't do that with any pretense, any pretext, anything you were trying that you felt deserving or worthy of getting anything from God, really. Yeah. You just went in there and all you had was a significant need at the time and feeling of being overwhelmed and just knew you needed help. And that's what he responded to. It reminded me, there's 2 times in the Bible that Jesus says somebody had great faith. And now, just a little bit of background there. Jesus came from the Jews. He was Jewish genealogy. Came from David, who was the king in the big era of the Jews. And they had the law. Most people are familiar with the 10 Commandments, and they've seen Charlton Heston playing Moses, and they have all these laws. And there was a lot of pride in keeping those laws and in doing religious observances and things like that. But the only 2 times, and Jesus did a lot of miracles, the only 2 times that he told somebody they had great faith, they weren't Jewish. They didn't bring any pretext. They didn't bring any law observance. They didn't bring any ritual. And I see today, I bring that up because I see today that so many people are so tied to their religious performance and duty and observations and rituals and whatnot. And they think that God may be favorable to them because of that. Oh, yeah. But the thing that your story brings to light is God is favorable because he's favorable. And all we need to do is have a need and recognize there's not a thing we can do about it. Maybe it's wrongs we've done. Maybe it's a healing we need. Maybe it's whatever. But to just look up and to realize that God is favorable. And, you know, you'll remember this story, back in the days of the children of Israel going through the desert, there were snakes that came and bit them. And God told Moses to make a bronze snake and put it on a pole, and anybody that looked to it would be healed. And then in the same way, that was a picture of Jesus on the cross, and anybody who looked to him was healed. Didn't have to bring anything except just look up and go, wow, that's God's favor toward me. And it's just like you went in right in front of that crucifix in that chapel and looked up and just said, I just have a need, and boom, and God came right to the rescue and healed that. But like you said, he healed you physically with the kidneys, but the real healing was inner. Yeah. And I think the real healing is always inward. Yeah. You know, it doesn't really, you know, the external circumstance, once the inside is set right, we can pretty much handle whatever comes by way of the external circumstance. And you've certainly had other things to handle. Mm-hmm. Even recently, this year has been a rough year. You know, we've just now gotten to the point in end of April, almost May, that we've been able to do the interview. But I love the fact that it's the inner healing that makes all the difference, and as your story so beautifully illustrates. And that's been, how many years now has it been since that happened with the kidney healing?
It's been about 60 no. It's been about 52 years.
About 52 years, wow.
Jeff will be back shortly to wrap up today's message. This is Gabriela, still on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. If you've missed any part of today's message, you can hear it again online, as well as the entire archive of Empowered Living at www.talknetworkradio.com. or search keyword #Empowered Living. We would like to acknowledge our music partners, Sound Ideas for Corporate to the Max, and Kevin MacLeod for Airport Lounge. Any scriptures read during this broadcast are from the New American Standard Version of the Holy Bible. If you would like to learn more about Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, visit www.jeffbyrdcoaching.com. That is JEFFBYRD coaching.com. Do a Facebook search for @CoachingRocks or drop Jeff a line